Hello everyone. Today I want to share with you some slides, which I make a summary of my photography with Ricoh THETA Z1 in the previous days, and I want to tell you how to boost the Ricoh THETA Z1 with Kandao Raw Plus, and why it is necessary, and to make the most of Z1. Sometimes it is really tricky to boost the Z1 with Raw Plus. So I will show you the trick. And this is our opening slides. In fact, I really want that Z1 could work compatible with Raw Plus. But now it's not. Something is very tricky. Our agenda for today is as follows. Let's get started. So for the Ricoh THETA Z1, the lens design is improved a lot, from the twin folded optics on the left to the triple folded optics on the right. And finally, for the photographers like you and me, we finally have 1-inch sensor in the VR camera. In fact, we have two 1-inch sensors in the VR camera. That is exciting news for all of us. And as we know that the image sensor from the smaller one to the 1-inch sensor, and we also know that we have APS-C size sensor and even the full frame APS-C sensor. In fact, for the photographer like you and me, there is no end of pursuing higher imaging quality from the digital cameras, especially nowadays. The entry-level camera is very cheap, and they have bigger sensor than the Ricoh THETA Z1, right? Normally they are equipped with micro four thirds or the APS-C size sensor, which is way larger than the 1-inch sensor. So there's no end for us for pursuing the high imaging quality. But for the VR photography, the bigger sensor sometimes might not means better, because in VR photography, sometimes we want the best, the biggest depth of field, while at the same time we want the camera to be small and compact. If the camera is big, then why not we use the panoramic head or combine with our DSLR, right? So the depth of field and the small and compact size will unleash the unlimited possibilities in VR photography. So sometimes the bigger sensor might not be better in VR photography. So if in VR photography, what on earth do we want? As panoramic photographers in VR photography, if we want to try to shot with point and shoot VR cameras like Z1, what on earth do we want? To get the best possible shots, in my humble opinion, I think we want the giant depth of field, the super small and compact size, the best possible imaging quality, and with more creative possibilities in VR photography. But that's not the end. We also want the unlimited capacity, not only in 19 gigabytes. We also want unlimited battery life and unlimited storage speed and reading and writing speed, and unlimited scalability through the full functional USB Type-C connectors, right? But you know that it's impossible that we get unlimited capacity, battery, speed, and scalability at the same time on such a small and compact size camera. So I'm just joking. In fact, the depth of field, the camera size, the imaging quality, and the possibilities are the main factors that we want in the VR photography. So just forget about this unlimited. So what if we could achieve the bigger sensor imaging quality while shooting with a smaller sensor, and thus we still maintain a compact with a giant depth of field? That's a very interesting topic, which means that we can take a high imaging quality as if we were shooting with a large sensor, while we have physically smaller sensor with giant depth of field and smaller lens, smaller cameras. So the imaging quality itself is just like coming from a bigger sensor. All the others are coming from the small sensors. That is a very interesting topic in VR photography. And the Kandao Raw Plus, the Raw Plus just gives you that magic to help you get a 4 times large sensor computationally in a photo stack. And to take the most of the Raw Plus, let us make clever use of the multi-bracket shooting mode in the Ricoh THETA Z1. So the Ricoh THETA Z1 has a very interesting exposure mode called the multi-bracket shooting. So in the multi-bracket shooting, you can shoot up to 19 exposures, which means that by push the shutter button 1 time, you can get at most 19 photos with different exposure values or the same exposure values. So the tricky part is, if you set the same exposure value in a sequence in a multi-bracket shooting mode and push the shutter button, it's like you have a DNG burst mode. You know, the Z1 does not have the DNG burst, but by setting the same exposure value in multi-bracket shooting mode, we get equivalent DNG burst shots. But it works quite slow. But anyway, it's just like we have a DNG burst, which works very slow. But it works, right? And it works best with Raw Plus. And after the multi-bracket shooting, normally we get 4 to 8 DNG shots. So I highly recommend you get at least 4 shots in DNG with the same exposure values, or up to 8 or 16 as long as you want. And if you combine the 8 shots in the Raw Plus, the Raw Plus is a photography photo stacking software. And by setting the top image as a reference, finally we'll get the single DNG shots with 16-bit depth and more dynamic range and less noise. So the imaging quality just improves a lot. And we have DNG files with the KDRAW/ prefix. This is a higher quality raw data compared with the original one, but with the KD Raw prefix, which makes it a little bit tricky, that's compatible with the Ricoh Stitcher later on. And the imaging quality improves a lot. Here are some examples. In the Ricoh THETA Z1 we have ISO 80, but even we shoot as ISO 80, we still get lots of noise in the shadow areas, right? For example, I shot this in the Belfast Assembly building. On the top of the building, you can see that in the shadow areas, we can see lots of noise, even if we shot at ISO 80. But after the full stacking, we can see that the noise is suppressed a lot, and there is even no noise in the dark area. And let's see the other part of the image. See, this is Jeffrey, this is Luca, and they are moving. Especially Luca is shooting panorama with his pole, with a mesosphere on the top. And before the photo stacking, you can see that there's noise on the carpet. There's noise on the blue background, right? And you can see the noise on the Luca's sweater. And after that, you can see the people are not blurred, but the noise is gone. So even with the lowest ISO as ISO 80, there is still noise in the dark areas. So by the photo stacking with Raw Plus, we can get rid of the noise, while at the same time, all the moving objects are still there. But later on, we will find that the Ricoh Stitcher refused to stitch such great imaging created by Ricoh THETA itself. But this image got boosted by the Kandao Raw Plus, so the Ricoh stitcher will not stitch the image. There is a tricky part. Next, you're going to cheat on the Ricoh stitcher. You have to cheat to make the Ricoh stitcher realize that that is an image generated directly from the camera. So next part, let's talk about how Ricoh stitcher works and how to cheat. When you're shooting Z1 with RAW plus JPEG mode, what we get is a DNG files with two fisheye images side by side unstitched and a stitched JPEG files. So every time we shoot with RAW plus JPEG, we have unstitched DNG and a stitched JPEG. And this is an example, right? On the left is the DNG shot. There's two fisheye images. On the right, it's a stitched result directly from the camera body. And for the DNG and the stitched JPEG, we want to shoot in DNG because we want the highest imaging quality. So let's get rid of the stitched DNG and let's talk about the Z1's DNG files. In fact, there are some secrets inside the Z1's DNG. The first one is there is hidden auto leveling parameters inside the DNG files. Second, there is a very precise lens calibration parameters inside the DNG files. Third one is that the DNG file will retain the camera active information that shows the photographer that this is the DNG shot by Ricoh THETA Z1. So the three secrets lies inside the Z1 DNG to make it more secretly compatible with the Ricoh stitcher. And so the basic workflow on a single DNG shot is that in the Adobe Lightroom, you fine-tune the DNG files and export to JPEG or TIFF and open that file as an input in the Ricoh stitcher, and you will get the almost the perfect stitch result. So if you are shooting with a single DNG, that is your workflow. But as we have mentioned before, that is not the highest image quality you will get. And the Ricoh THETA stitcher will check the image identity to make sure that nobody can cheat on Ricoh stitcher. In fact, we can, but the Ricoh stitcher will have some identification to make sure that nobody can cheat on Ricoh stitcher. The first one is that the Ricoh stitcher will check if R0010603.dng exists in the same folder, which means that the TIFF or JPEG files must be in the same folder with the original DNG shots, and it will check if the TIFF or JPEG file name start with the file name that is the same as the DNG file, which is R0010603, right? And next step, the Ricoh stitcher will read lens calibrations data and auto leveling parameters inside the DNG in the DNG file. But at the same time, the Ricoh stitcher will stitch the TIFF or JPEG files. So that is very tricky. So the Ricoh stitcher will have two input files. The one is the original DNG files. The second input is the exported TIFF or JPEG files. So in fact, there are two images input into the Ricoh stitcher. And from the DNG files, the lens calibration and the auto leveling parameters matters a lot. But the parameters will work on the TIFF or JPEG files so that you will get a perfect stitch result from the Ricoh stitcher. So that is a very tricky part. And here's how to cheat on the Ricoh stitcher. So as we have mentioned before, we have a high quality raw data with the KDRAW/ as prefix on the file name to make sure that these files is in the same folder as the original DNG files, which means that in the folder we have the original one and the high quality one, and we fine tuning on the high quality DNG files and export it as TIFF or JPEG. But this time remember that you should rename the high quality TIFF or JPEG files as the same name as the original DNG file. That is the tricky part. So we know that the Ricoh teacher will have two input files. The one is the DNG files. The other one is your JPEG file. From the DNG file, the auto leveling and the lens calibration are needed. And for the high quality exported TIFF or JPEG files, finally we will have a high quality stitch result, just like you did with a single DNG shot. But this time you cheat the Ricoh stitcher with the high quality JPEG or TIFF files that generated from the Kandao Raw high quality DNG files instead of the original single DNG shot. So this time Ricoh stitcher will finally realize that, oh yeah, this is an image created by the straight out from the Ricoh THETA Z1. But in fact we have many fine tuning and imaging quality improvement on that file, which means that you develop the high quality the Kandao Raw DNG files, export and rename, right? And you can open in the Ricoh stitcher also export, and boom, we solve the problem. Now we can use the Ricoh stitcher to stitch the high quality TIFF or JPEG file. So by cheating on Ricoh stitcher, finally we made a very good collaboration between Ricoh THETA Z1 and the Kandao Raw Plus. The result is that we get a higher imaging quality. It's just like that you were shooting Ricoh THETA Z1 with an APS-C size sensor, so that the Ricoh THETA Z1 does not equipped with a two 1-inch sensor, but with two APS-C size sensors computationally. So let's make a summary on these slides. I have shown you the Z1's capabilities in VR photography, and I have taught you the clever use of multi-bracket shooting as a substitution for the absence of DNG burst mode in Ricoh THETA Z1. And by applying the Kandao Raw Plus altogether with the multi-bracket shooting, finally you will have an imaging quality that just like you were shooting with a 4 times larger sensor. And I have taught you how to cheat on Ricoh THETA stitcher so that the Ricoh THETA stitcher will stitch the high quality image instead of the lower one, right? And you can see that there is huge potential for improvement for Ricoh on the DNG workflow, especially nowadays we have photo stacking. It will help the panoramic photographers to get the imaging quality that is even higher than the single shot from the Z1. So there is huge potential for improvement for Ricoh on the DNG workflow, especially the Ricoh stitcher needs two files as input, a DNG file and a JPEG file, and they must be in the same folder, the same file names. I think that's weird. Many photographers ask me how to combine Raw Plus with Z1. Ricoh stitcher does not recognize the image generated by Raw Plus. What's wrong with the Ricoh stitcher? So that is the reason why it doesn't work, and You need to cheat on the Ricoh teacher, and you must realize that there's huge potential for improvement. Okay, that's all for today's slides, and let's cheers and enjoy your shooting.